Looked around for a Setons game with 8 the top players in the game. This is the one I found. So we got Batman as Aeon taking on Dim as UEF in the middle. So that's definitely going to be a very good matchup. On Rock here we have Hawk taking on Sith. We got a UEF versus Seraphim matchup here. You got Mr. White, Cybern versus Le Pen, who's also Cybern. These two extremely good naval fights. And we got Igla versus Berg in ASF. So very close and should be pretty intense. Speed it up for first part. See Batman here going with 2 P-gens, 2 mass extractors, factoring the first NG, gets the other mass extractor and gets the Hydro. It's a little late on power, pretty slow with the ACU. If we look at what Dim did, he's got 3 mass extractors, 2 P-gens. His first NG is going to build a whole, actually that's his second NG. He's going to build a whole bunch of power. His first NG is going to the middle. See the plan here, he's going to get all this wreckage. 2 very fast mech marines going straight for the place where you would expect an NG from Batman, but that's not, Batman did not send an NG. He did send 2 scouts, and these have just spotted the mech marines. So you can see the NG walking back behind the ACU, and now the scout goes up. So an NG from Dim basically gets a whole bunch of free mass. Now we see mech marine versus Aurora, so it's a tie between an Aurora and 2 mech marines. See Dim, he's got 4 NGs spamming power, got another 2 NGs getting factories, still not really expanding to his other mass extractors and Hydra. To contrast with Batman's got a whole bunch of mass extractors already. Coming up on 3.5 minutes, we see transport from Mr. White and another transport from Hawk, so it's slightly faster from Mr. White, but it looks like the 2 teams have such respect for each other that they won't even fight for the island. Now we see an Aurora from Batman actually goes in and takes out the NG, but not before it got a whole bunch of mass. See what Dim's doing here. He's actually going to get that shipwreck. That's going to be quite a bit of mass. Actually, this is Batman. Dim's going to get a bunch of mass in this area. Gets Batman's NG to retreat. You can see some Arty coming up. A whole bunch of Aeon Arty. Really not a very good weapon versus units, but good versus stationary ACUs. You can see a nice interceptor here from Sith, expecting drops on her side base. And now a scout from Le Pen. Le Pen actually with the top score from the beach. That's very impressive. Probably the best ecoing player in the game, Le Pen. Now we see that Aurora is being used against Dim, staying out of range. So a good micro with these Auroras. Now finally Dim, minute 6, decides to get the rest of his mass extractors and Hydra. If we look at the numbers, Dim extracted nearly 7k mass versus Batman, who's got 9,000. This is quite surprising given that Dim did get that NG through. And now you see the Aurora is using their range versus UEF. Flat ground, this is definitely Aurora territory, plus they can go on water. Dim using NGs to get his ACU, either the gun or T2. Definitely need the gun versus these Auroras. He's basically getting free shots, not taking any damage. We see a drop coming in from Hawk. It's most likely. This is a whole bunch of arty, 8 arty that you can drop directly on water. You really stop the production. However, the transport drops off very quickly. And now we see Dim. He's got T2. He's going to get some T2 PD. This is a lot of dead mass that Dim can claim for himself with his T2 PD. See Batman actually making his own T2 PD. We're going to get a T2 PD standoff in the middle. See both players, and Dim, as soon as he realizes it's going to be a T2 PD standoff, stops production of T1. You can see this drop from Hawk. Took out a couple NGs, but this frigate's going to clean it up quite well. You can actually, if this frigate wasn't there, actually a frigate from Hawk as well. It's a really nice attack against Sith. We see a whole bunch of T1 bombers coming in looking for NGs, raid, or anything like that. If Hawk can actually keep Sith out of the water here, it'd be quite devastating. A nice T1 bomber spam. Dim has got stealth, a couple PD, a shield. Looks like Batman also has his own stealth. He's trying to move forward here. Of course, the Aeon ACU has an advantage here that it can get Omni for these types of battles. Looks like we got a Jester. It's gonna try to break through a shield. That's not gonna work. And it appears that Sith, by making T1 torpedo launchers, was able to fight back versus these frigates, but lost her factory. We see a really nice spam of T1. This factory hasn't lost time. We're going T2. I see a nice long string of T1 Navy. I see a scout. This is minute 11 from Igla. Igla has a massive eco. That appears. See Berg spamming quite a few T2 Pigeons, a slightly different style than Igla, who only made 3 and went with Ras, who already has 1, and reclaiming those T2 Pigeons. Really only need 3 if you're going to use Ras, but Berg goes with more, that way he can get a little more ISF earlier on. And more Phobos dropped off. This is an excellent weapon because torpedo launchers can't hit Phobos, they can float above water. And in the middle it appears actually that Dim has to retreat versus Batman. This is the advantage of this Aeon ACU. We can look at the upgrades on this. Looks like he just has T2, he does not have the Omni. But nevertheless is pushing ahead with these mobile shields. "16 kills on this PD. And Dim really has to think of a plan at this point. Sith being put in a bad situation here. Nothing to shoot at these Phobos. She's using T1 bombers to take those out. Just got a frigate. And actually reclaiming frigates with NGs. It's pretty nice to see. Have not looked at this bottom ocean yet. It looks like just a standoff between Le Pen and Mr. White. Extremely even in terms of score. And it looks like Mr. White does have a T2 ship in the area. Put some pressure on Batman's front. Batman's army. Dim builds yet another shield with some PD and a TMD. UEF TMD is vulnerable. Need to build a whole bunch. We see Igla with looks like a significant ASF advantage. You can never discount Berg, however. And it looks like Sith was able to stay in water and has a couple frigates, is going to be able to build her own navy. It appears that Hawk has gone T2, is working on a destroyer, or that could actually be a cruiser. That is a destroyer. And now we do have a battle in the other ocean, and we see some T2 present for Mr. White, which will most likely make the difference. We do not see any T2 for Le Pen. It's going to be a loss for Le Pen. He does have a destroyer coming in. I actually see another destroyer coming in. It's going to be a big loss for Le Pen. Looks like Dim is making Mongoose. SPD is successful at taking out Aeon cruise missiles. Aeon cruise missiles fly really low. They're the easiest to take out with UEF PD. We see a whole bunch of T3 torpedo bombers. It's going to help Hawk against Sith. And the air is completely dominated by Igla in the top ocean here. Mr. White doing extremely well. You can see he's pushing his frigates first, following up with his T2 ships. And then using his frigates to get to the T2 and get behind him. Excellent micro from Mr. White. In the middle, the fight is still pretty tough between Batman and Dim. A lot of wrecks. And now we have the ASF fight between Berg and Igla. And Sith has been killed. That was a snipe by these torpedoes. From Igla to kill Sith. That is pretty devastating. And the bombers survived, 4 bombers, and they're going back. The base was given over to Berg. That ASF fight did not end. It was really cool. ASF fight over ACU exploding. It's funny that all the ASF did not get taken out. So if we recap this game, it looks like Batman was able to get about 2k extra health, extra mass, which made the difference in Igla getting a better eco, which gave him more ASF, which allowed him to make torpedo bombers as well, which allowed him to snipe Sith. Looks like Le Pen is going to be pushing back, given that his team has air dominance. He has just been given 4 torpedo bombers. He'll be able to switch the advantage in his direction for sure. And it looks like Dim was able to actually push back and win his fight. He's going to get a lot of mass here. It's going to help him get his eco back on track. See the cruisers here from Hawk. You need some T2 here to protect your mass extractors. And now we do see this fight. These torpedo bombers basically get free shots, except for this cruiser, which is going to be taken out. You can see all those torpedoes going in after this cruiser. And no more cruisers, which means no more anti-air. Which is bad news for Mr. White. However, he's still fighting really well with what he has, with a whole bunch of T1 units. Still very even in the middle. Nice to see Hawk getting his mass back from these power generators. Looks like he is going to be shifting a lot of his build capacity from Navy to air. This will be a bad situation for Mr. White soon if he keeps on losing Navy like this. You see some T3 ground from Batman. It'll be very difficult to push forward. Actually, the ACU from DIM has gone T3. Now he's able to build Ravagers, and this is a huge advantage for EF. He can start pushing this T2 base back. Harbies are not a good counter to Ravagers. Should be seeing a lot more cruisers from Hawk. Basically just has 2. Taking out mass extractors. They're really taking a long time to do this. Some Riptides, excellent weapon. Actually, these are undefended against Riptides. Good use of units from them. 4 kills for Torpedo Bomber. 4 really big ones most likely. And now it looks like Igla has taken away his ASF. Dim is gonna, Berg is going to help Mr. White out. Batman using some looks like missiles here from somewhere. Mr. White's really trying to micro his Navy very well. See him chasing down these T2. But he really does not have the numbers, lost a whole bunch to those torpedo bombers. However, Berg has taken those out at this point. If we look at the production from Igla, 2 massive ASF factories. And he has a whole bunch of refueling stations. These Aeon shields are extremely strong. We see an Omni here from Batman that he's given over to Igla. Now you can see Igla's team basically has radar coverage of the entire map. It's a huge advantage. Of course, this might not last very long with Dim making those T3PD. Looks like a lot of Harbies from Batman. Also some it's a shield disruptor. It is not clear what the plan is for salvaging this base. It's a very difficult thing to do, perhaps when a Fat Boy is built. And here we see Le Pen with the advantage is able to start shooting at Mr. White's island. See Le Pen trying to save his cruisers. Much less health on these. It's good to take those out first. And now we see the ASF battle between Berg and Igla. I would guess that Igla does have the numbers. And Igla takes the victory. A whole bunch of dead planes on the ground. Now Dim is in a bit of trouble. The cruisers from Hawk are going to help Batman out. It's amazing that Batman was actually able to protect versus T3PD. A lot of mobile shields, and actually see the Harveys coming in. Try to take out a few of these Ravagers. It appears that this shield disruptor is doing a good job. Cruisers are also excellent shield disruptors. And now Igla is flying over Berg's base to preventing any production. And really, the difference in mass extracted was 2,000. And it was very strange. Dim did get his NG in first, but it looks like just with the ACU, Batman got a little more than Dim. This is still a mystery to me how these shields are holding up. A lot of mobile shields. Mr. White's Navy is falling. This is not something you see very often. Of course it is against Le Pen. We see a whole bunch of T3 torpedo bombers. You could be looking at Berg's ACU. Awesome, extremely even fight AN versus EEF in the middle. And even with all these cruisers, Dim is still in the middle. You can see the counter that Berg is using against ASF. A whole bunch of T1 as well as T3. And some T2 flak as well. And Mr. White calls it good game. Really very close, and of course if Mr. White had the same air support that Le Pen did, it would probably be the opposite effect. See Hawk here building up a nice strat force. Some strat bombers from Igla as well. Perhaps Dim is going to be the target. These should break the shields. Dim taking on a player, two different navies, and the strat bombers. And now it looks like Dim is just gonna walk out, get shot by the PD. A good game for Dim. And now you see the Cyber Navy, all these destroyers looking to get on land. Mr. White leaves the game. Actually, he may have been shot by these cruisers. A whole bunch of strat bombers. And Berg is the last ACU standing. It looks like he's going to get a fatty. and some shields, so play until the end. You see a epic scout here. Berg is saving a little bit of ASF for emergencies in the back. Nice placement of T2 flak for the bombers that are going to fly over to bomb his ACU. Now this ACU has been spotted. Also nice to stand between water and ground, so that if you're targeted by torpedo bombers, you walk out, then you walk back in. This is a lot of flak here. Should be seeing these strat bombers coming in very soon. And now these ships are still walking. Actually, they've stopped. Strat bomber is going to take out the rest of the mass on the island. It's very methodical. Now it appears these are torpedo bombers. They're going to go after Berg. I'll drop them right there. Now Berg will walk out. You can see all these torpedoes. Just knock down those shields. Berg needs some power, it appears. Yes, this power was just taken out. Looks like strat bombers. And now the Navy keeps on walking. Cyber Navy. A lot of kills on these destroyers. 42, 34, 37, 19. These cruisers, 33 on this one. Berg is back in the lake. Not sticking his head out. So the strat bombers, looks like they were for the most part killed. There was a whole bunch, and now we see stealth strat bombers from Le Pen. Some ground units from Batman from the middle. Whole bunch of anti-shields on a nuke. Looks like Hawk built a nuke. So there's definitely no defense against that for Berg. And he commits suicide. So that was a very high level game, very close, basically the beginning. The difference in mass caused a chain of events that could not be changed.